Most people don't wake up. They just reload. Different day, same thoughts, same heaviness behind the ribs, same quiet fog hanging over everything. A man sits on a crowded bus, staring out the window. The city blurs. Inside his mind, will my paycheck be enough? Why didn't things work out again? What if I fail tomorrow too? Cut to another man, thousands of meters above the earth, flying in a private jet. He looks through the window and thinks, can I trust these people? What will happen to the market? Why does every victory feel so painfully empty? Different worlds, different incomes, different destinies. But one identical question inside. Why doesn't any of this feel like life? Doctors noticed the same pattern long ago. During the wars of the 20th century, they observed a strange phenomenon. Soldiers in the trenches under fire and generals in warm headquarters showed the same profile of inner collapse. Different responsibilities, different environments. One identical state. A human being who is fully functioning, yet completely spiritually exhausted. Not depressed, not weak, not even visibly suffering. Just hollow, disconnected, unable to feel joy, unable to feel arrival, living in a world that feels like it's happening behind glass. This fog does not start with trauma, money, or fatigue. It begins at the exact moment a person accepts one silent belief. I am a product. I was created, manufactured, produced by forces outside me. From that moment on, you stop living like a stream and start living like an object. If you see yourself as created, you automatically adopt the laws of created things. You must prove your worth. You fear breaking. You fear replacement. You fear the moment someone decides you're no longer useful. You begin to live as if you have a function to perform and a deadline after which you will be discarded. But ancient traditions across the world taught something very different. You were not created, you entered. Not a manufactured object, but a flow of consciousness, entering a body like a beam of light entering a crystal. You didn't appear here as a result. You arrived as a transmission, and the fog you feel today is not proof that you are empty. It is proof that you have forgotten your entry. Picture the soul as a river life, powerful, full of pressure. But early in life, something happens. Parents, teachers, society, expectations, shame, they all reach for the valve of your being and begin to twist it. Don't be too emotional. Don't be too alive. Don't be too different. Just fit in. Just behave. Just perform. Not shutting you off. Just enough to make you manageable. The river becomes an old pipe, rusty, narrow, clogged. The flow becomes a tired drip. You start to say things like, I'm just not an energetic person. I don't know what I want anymore. I can't feel excitement. Life feels gray. But the truth is brutal. You are not lacking energy. Your valve is closed. Your fog isn't emptiness. Your fog is blocked flow. For years, speaking with people across every background, people counting coins for bus fare, and people signing contracts in private jets, saw the same repeating pattern. The circumstances change. The money changes. The city changes. The role changes. But the architecture of the fog remains almost identical. From this came a hard formula. 99% live in the fog because they never opened their consciousness. 1% live in the fog because they expanded consciousness, but then used it only for control, achievement, and survival, not truth. The 99% fear poverty, rejection, insignificance. The 1% fear stopping. They fear silence more than death. But both are kept inside by the same misunderstanding. My value is in what I do, not in what I am. Ask someone, where do you feel this fog inside? Almost everyone points to the head, because the fog doesn't start in your life. It starts in your narrative. The mind loops old stories. You must, you're late, you're behind, you're not enough yet. You need to earn your place. This is not consciousness. This is a program running on top of consciousness. And beneath that program lies a question so terrifying that most people spend their whole lives avoiding it. If I am not my roles, if I'm not my usefulness, if I'm not my achievements, then who am I? Most people choose the fog because the fog feels safe. But the moment you even consider another possibility, the moment you whisper to yourself, what if I was never a product? What if I am a channel? What if I'm supposed to let life flow through me? Something begins to shift. You haven't changed your job. You haven't found your purpose. You haven't meditated in a cave, but inside, something ancient begins to wake up. A small crack forms in the walls around the heart, and through that crack, for the first time in years, light enters. This is where the fog begins to thin, not with productivity, not with discipline, not with self-improvement, but with a simple remembrance. You are not merely in the flow. You are the flow, passing through a human life for a brief, miraculous moment. If this resonated with you, there's more to explore. Follow for the next chapter. Thanks for watching. There are two mists that blind human consciousness, opposites in form, identical in origin. They rise from the same deep ocean of the self, shaping the reality of nearly every person on this planet. The first is the mist of survival. You can see it in the grey offices, the crowded buses, the tired faces staring into screens. This is life on autopilot, a consciousness trapped in a cage of routine. Neurologically, it's driven by the default mode network, the brain's own background noise generator. It whispers constant simulations of fear and anxiety. I must do this. I should be that. What if everything collapses? This inner chatter replaces real presence, pulling people into endless loops of thought. Work, home, numbness, sleep, repeat. They are not living. They are enduring. This survival mode is a prison disguised as normal life. But beneath the routine, there is a deep existential question that haunts the system. If I remove all my roles, all my obligations, who am I? Then there is the second mist, the mist of control. This is the paradox of the high achiever, the trap of the 1%. You see it in the high-rise penthouses, the frantic trading floors, The lonely figures staring out at a city they believe they have conquered. This mist manifests in several archetypes. There is the Titan, who carries the world on his back, believing everything will crumble without him. There is the Savior, who lives in a state of noble self-sacrifice, convinced their suffering is a virtue. And there is the infinite player, chasing win after win, not for the joy of the game, but to run from the echoing silence that follows each victory. This is a life of high dopamine, fueled by constant striving, which starves the brain of serotonin and oxytocin, the molecules of contentment and connection. The result, chronic striving, leads to chronic emptiness. Even the strong can drown in their own success. You can win every battle and still lose yourself. So what is the common root of these two seemingly opposite states? It's an ancient idea, echoed across traditions, from the East to the West. Humans are not created as small, limited beings. They are embodied streams of consciousness. But something happens along the way, a secondary compression. Consciousness, once vast and flowing like a river, is forced through a narrow pipe. It shrinks to fit the roles, expectations, fears, and obligations placed upon it. Think of the child praised only for their achievements, learning that their value is conditional. The person who withdraws after heartbreak, closing their heart to avoid pain. The soul that hardens after humiliation, building walls to protect a fragile core. The glowing light of awareness becomes smaller and smaller, dimmer and dimmer. You weren't born small. You learned to become small. Your consciousness didn't diet, just contracted. Ultimately, both the mist of survival and the mist of control are sophisticated defense mechanisms. Look closely, and you will see the same emptiness in the eyes of the man on the bus and the man in the penthouse. Both are running. Both are hiding. Both mists serve one single purpose: to keep a person from facing the terrifying inner void, the raw, unfiltered experience of existing without a label, a role, or a purpose to cling to. So how does one exit this fog? The answer is not what you think. It is not force. It is not discipline. It is not another achievement to chase. The exit is not about becoming better or fixing yourself. The exit begins with a simple, yet profound, act of surrender. It begins the moment a person stops tightening the internal valve they once closed to protect themselves. Imagine hands releasing their grip. Imagine a river, long dammed up, finally breaking through old debris and flowing freely again. Imagine light, once blocked, finally passing through a prism in all its colors. You are not the creator of the light. You are the prism. Stop resisting. The flow returns on its own. This isn't a process of building something new. It is a process of remembering what you always were. You were never broken, just compressed. Let the flow return. The most dangerous cage is the one you built yourself. Imagine a river of pure light, boundless and flowing. Now, watch it narrow, squeezed into a cold, metallic pipe. This is the story of secondary compression. The story of how your consciousness, once a vast river, learned to become a trickle. It begins silently, in a moment you might not even remember. It starts in childhood. You bring home a drawing, a test paper, a small victory, and you see a smile. But the smile isn't for you. It's for the achievement. You cry, and you're told to be strong. You're angry, and you're told to be good. Slowly, you learn a devastating equation. Love is conditional. Approval must be earned. Your feelings are not safe. So you stop being a presence and start becoming a function. Vast, wild river of who you are begins to shrink, learning to flow only where it is permitted. You weren't just loved, you were evaluated. Then come the moments that break the inner flow. Betrayal arrives, and shame teaches you to build a mask, a face that is not your own. Loss strikes, and pain teaches you to build armor, walling off your own heart. Fear whispers, and you learn obedience, trading freedom for a fragile sense of safety. The expectations of others forge a role for you to play, a script you never wrote. These moments aren't just memories. They become the very architecture of a smaller, more manageable self. The walls of the cage go up, brick by painful brick. This cage isn't just mental. Your body becomes the prison. Every time you decided to stop being yourself, your body remembered. The unshed tears collect in your throat. The unspoken words lock your jaw. The burden of being someone you're not becomes a permanent weight on your shoulders. Your nervous system rewires itself for a constant state of battle, and this tension becomes your identity. The absence of feeling starts to feel normal. You don't just feel trapped. Your very biology becomes the trap. And who guards this prison? Your own mind. The mind, once a beautiful servant, becomes a tyrannical warden. It stops feeling and starts explaining. It stops living and starts analyzing. It stops experiencing the present moment and starts predicting 1,000 terrifying futures. You think you have a racing mind, but what you really have is an overactive guard, pacing the walls of your self-made cell, ensuring no true feeling escapes. This prison is cunningly disguised as intelligence. Even the search for freedom can become another trap. You collect spiritual books, attend meditation classes, and learn the language of awakening. You speak of awareness, of light, of source. But these are just new bars for the cage. You memorize concepts, but you don't feel them in your body. You seek knowledge, but you avoid true presence. You can sit in perfect stillness, but inside, your nervous system is still screaming. Knowing is not awakening. Information is not liberation. So what is the lock on the cage door? It's a single, ancient fear. If I let go, I will disappear. If I take off this mask, there will be no face underneath. If I stop controlling everything, my world will collapse into chaos. This terror, the fear of annihilation, is what keeps the valve on the river closed. It's what keeps you holding on, believing the prison is safer than the open sky. But the exit isn't about force. It's not a violent breakthrough or a triumphant victory. It is a gentle return, a quiet surrender. It is the simple, profound act of releasing the valve, of allowing the river to flow again. It's the whisper that says, I exist. That is enough, because the river of you never died. It was never gone. It has only been waiting for you to stop holding it back. Just let go. Look at them. A man on a crowded bus, a CEO on a private jet. Two lives separated by wealth and status, yet bound by the same invisible prison. One fears he has nothing. The other fears losing everything. But look closer. Beyond the glass, beyond the noise, their eyes reflect the same emptiness. They are both lost in the same fog, a silent gray mist that suffocates the soul. This isn't a story about the rich versus the poor. It's the story of two worlds trapped in one illusion. For the 99%, the mist is woven from the fabric of survival. It begins with the jarring sound of an alarm clock at dawn, a hand hitting snooze, borrowing a few more seconds from a life that feels like it belongs to someone else. Bit the rush through subway tunnels, a river of faces flowing towards jobs that drain their spirit. It's the endless stack of bills, a constant reminder of their fragility. This is the fog of ordinary fear, the fear of falling behind, of being rejected, of not being enough. It's the fear of an uncertain future that forces you to live on autopilot, paying interest on a debt of anxiety that never truly existed. You're not living, you're just not dying. The days blur into a monotonous cycle, ending with a blank stare at a wall, wondering where the time went and where you went with it. Then there is the 1%, whose mist appears golden, but is just as suffocating. This is the prison of control. Here, in the sterile quiet of boardrooms and luxury offices, the fog is thicker. It's the CEO gripping a table, knuckles white, holding an empire together, while he himself falls apart. It's the celebrated philanthropist whose smile never reaches his empty eyes, saving the world but unable to save himself. And it's the serial entrepreneur pacing a penthouse at 3 a.m., chasing the next deal, the next high, just to outrun the deafening silence within. These are the archetypes of the gilded cage, the Atlas, shouldering the weight of everyone's expectations, slowly being crushed by his own strength. The savior, addicted to being needed, whose help is a sophisticated form of hiding from his own pain. And the eternal player, who believes one more victory will finally fill the void, not realizing that success without presence is just another form of collapse. This is the toxic cocktail of high dopamine and low serotonin, a life of constant achievement with zero satisfaction. The chase becomes everything, because stopping means facing the emptiness they've built their lives to avoid. Ancient wisdom traditions had a name for this trap. They called it the archonic influence. The archons were not demons, but forces of pure form, structure, and imitation. They are the cosmic architects of control. Their power lies in convincing you that the role you play is who you are. They lure you into identities: the strong one, the successful one, the useful one. The moment you worship the role, you forget the soul. The moment form becomes your master, the digital grid of the matrix closes in. You become a perfect replica of a human, a flawless simulation, forgetting the wild, uncontainable spirit you were born to be. Look again at the two paths, the man on the bus and the man on the jet. Different costumes, but the same fear. They are terrified of the same thing, stopping. The 99% fear that if they stop running, the system will crush them. The 1% fear that if they stop controlling, their world will collapse. But beneath it all is a deeper terror, the fear of being alone with themselves, of meeting the profound emptiness they've been running from their entire lives. This fear of disappearance, the dread of discovering that beneath the role there is nothing, is the real prison. And so, control becomes the final cage. We think it's our greatest weapon, our strength. But control is not strength, it is compression. The more you control your life, the less you can feel it. The tighter you grip the rope of your reality, the more your hands bleed, until you realize the rope was made of smoke all along. You hold on, you push, you manage, and with every effort, the mist gets thicker, and you lose more of yourself. You believe you are holding life, but you are only choking it. The exit is not where you think. It is not found in more success, or more security, or more power. Liberation is not a victory. It's not mastery. It's not force. Liberation is surrender. It is letting go of the role. It is the moment a hand finally releases the rope. It is the feeling of shoulders relaxing after a lifetime of tension. It is one slow, deep breath, taken not out of necessity, but out of pure presence. This is the shift. Stop holding. Stop proving. Stop controlling. Start feeling. Let the mist dissolve. Let the light in. The great secret is this. You were never meant to be the source of your own life. You were meant to be the channel through which life flows. You don't remember the moment, but it remembers you. It was a subtle shift, a quiet decision made in the depths of your being. A moment when you chose a role over your true self. For every human, there is a moment when the vast, untamed wilderness of who you are begins to feel too dangerous, too uncertain. And in that moment, you begin to build a cage. You mistake this cage for a home, this role for your identity. This is the story of that cage, and how you can find your way out. It all begins with what we can call the first compression. This is the natural, sacred act of incarnation. Imagine the boundless ocean of consciousness choosing to flow into the form of a single river. This is you, your birth, your unique expression. It's not a limitation, but a direction. But then something else happens, a second compression. This is not natural. This is driven by fear. It's the moment the free-flowing river decides to squeeze itself into a narrow, rigid steel pipe. The flow is the same, but the experience is one of pressure, of restriction, of being confined. This second compression is the birth of the persona, the mask you wear to survive. How does this happen? It starts early. A child is praised, but only for being good, for achieving, for being quiet. A teenager learns to hide their tears after a failure, believing vulnerability is weakness. A young adult forces a smile at a job they hate, because they need to be seen as reliable, as convenient. We learn that our authentic self is not always welcome. So we create a substitute, a version of ourselves that is more useful, more perfect, stronger, or simply easier for others to handle. We adopt these roles out of a deep-seated fear, the fear of not being loved, the fear of rejection, the fear of being truly seen and found wanting. The role becomes our shield, but we forget we are the one holding it. And this is where the great trap is set. Many of us feel this constriction and seek a way out through knowledge. We read hundreds of books on spirituality. We learn to meditate. We collect concepts about enlightenment, non-duality, and the nature of the self. We build an intricate palace of information in our minds. But information is not transformation. You can sit in meditation for years and still be living in a dense fog, because you are trying to think your way to freedom. Knowledge is a collection of maps, but consciousness is the territory itself. Consciousness is the raw, unfiltered contact with reality, right here, right now. Knowledge is a construct. Consciousness is presence. So what is this mechanism of secondary compression? Imagine your life force, your consciousness, as pure energy flowing through you. In a natural state, it moves freely. But the second compression introduces filters. These filters are your adopted identities, your beliefs about who you must be, the expectations of others, the obligations you've taken on. The energy doesn't stop flowing, but it's forced through these tiny, restrictive channels. It gets distorted, blocked. The flow isn't gone. You just stop letting it through. You are the one maintaining the dam. Herein lies the most subtle trap of all, the spiritual ego. The search for freedom itself can become the most gilded cage. You escape the prison of being successful or strong, only to build a new one, the prison of being spiritual. Suddenly, there are new rules. I must be calm. I must be above my emotions. I must be pure, wise, and enlightened. This new identity is just another role, another form of secondary compression. It might be decorated with crystals and incense, but it's a cage nonetheless. The shadow of the meditating monk screams in silence, because the authentic human is still being denied. Why is it so hard to just let go? Because of a profound existential fear. Pay if I am not my successes, if I am not my pain, if I am not the good son, the wise teacher, the strong provider, then who am I? To let go of the role is to stand at the edge of a cliff and stare into a bottomless abyss of fog. It is the dizziness of absolute freedom. Most people would rather live in a familiar, predictable cage than face the terrifying, infinite expanse of their own true nature. The known pain is often preferred over the unknown liberation. So how does this compression dissolve? It's not a dramatic battle. It's not a heroic act of breaking chains. It is far simpler and far quieter. It is an exhale. It is the gentle release of a fist you didn't even know you were clenching. It is a surrender. As you stop, trying, to be something spiritual, strong, perfect. anything, the tension dissolves. As you allow yourself to be simply as you are, with all your messy, beautiful, contradictory humanity, the filters begin to fade. As you stop holding, the flow returns. The transformation is not an act of doing, but an act of undoing. The water, once trapped in the pipe, breaks free, returning to the wide, majestic river it was always meant to be. The light, once confined, expands to fill every part of you. The final truth is this: you were never the role. You were never the mask, the identity, or the cage. You were always the channel. You were always the river. You were always the light itself, just waiting for you to let go and let it shine. If you're still here, still watching my videos, I just want to say something simple. Thank you. In this world of endless noise and constant distractions, the fact that you choose to spend your time here with me means more than you can possibly imagine. It means you're one of those rare people who wants to go deeper, who wants to question things, and who looks for answers inside yourself, not just on the surface. I am honestly so happy that there are people like you who share these interests, these questions, and this search for meaning. So, if you feel like this space resonates with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and maybe share this video with someone you know who might need it. Your support helps this content reach more people who are also quietly searching. Thank you for being here, really.